Hello, good evening. Thank you for joining me again. So, today is the third Sunday in Advent. It's a day when lots of churches think about John the Baptist. John the Baptist. Let's face it, he is a bit odd, isn't he? He looks different from other people. He has an unusual diet, a very peculiar sense of fashion, and he's not afraid to say what he thinks. So, as he's baptizing those who've been drawn by what he has said, he sees the Pharisees and the Sadducees heading his way, the people who were in positions of church leadership, highly respected by their communities. And how does John the Baptist greet them? He calls them a bunch of snakes and warns them that unless they do some serious changing of heart and attitude, they are in for eternal trouble. Do you know, it's really not the most endearing way to greet anyone, but John does it without any hesitation, apparently totally secure in the rightness of what he was saying. Love it. So, a bit like Jesus, we know about John's birth and we know what he did around about the age of 30, but we don't know a lot about what happened in between, except that in the Bible it says the child grew and became strong in spirit, and he lived in the wilderness until he appeared publicly to Israel. So he grew up and went to live in the desert. Now, I haven't visited the Judean wilderness, and some of you have heard this story before, so apologies if you have. But Will and I do have a couple of favourite bits of wilderness, and one of those is Alaska, although it's a long time now since we've actually been there. First time we went, just over 30 years ago, maybe. It was summer and it was hot. And we'd worked out places that we really wanted to go. And one of them was a place called Manly Hot Springs. You can probably work out why we wanted to go from the name. It's about 160 miles west of Fairbanks, which is not very far in a car. So we set off. What we didn't realise is that about 40 miles out of the city of Fairbanks, you drive off the end of the tarmac. And the rest of the trip, 120 miles or so, is dirt track. We also didn't realise that the only other major users of that dirt road are the mega trucks that take supplies 500 miles north to the Prudhoe Bay oil field, and that those lorries drive as if there is no one else on the road. So off we went. We drove off the end of the tarmac and we kept going. It's beautiful. There's mile after mile of landscape that's called taiga, that's spelled Taiga, just bushes, small trees, a bit taller than the tundra that you get further north. It's beautiful and there is no one there, real wilderness. What we did know was that the forest fires that were burning in Alaska at that time were nowhere near us. And that was when we drove into the smoke. We smelt it first, and then it started gently drifting across the road. We were literally in the middle of nowhere. We couldn't pick up a radio station on the car radio. It was before mobile phones had been invented, or at least before they were commonly available. So we had a choice to make, carry on or go back. We chose to carry on. We didn't see more than smoke. We got to Manly Hot Springs. And 2 days later, when we drove back, the vegetation along a stretch of road about 10 miles long was totally burnt on both sides. I think that's the moment in my life when I realised just how dangerous the wilderness is. But it didn't stop us heading out into the wilderness again. Why? Why did we go there? Thinking about it now, I can see that it was because it was an opportunity to experience something that just wouldn't have been possible anywhere else. It was a chance to encounter something really special, something that was life enhancing and actually life changing. John the Baptist chose to go and live in a wilderness, beautiful in its way, yes, but a really challenging place to live and dangerous, limited water, exceedingly limited choice of food. And why did he make that choice? What was he doing out there by himself in the wilderness? Was he also experiencing something that wouldn't have been possible anywhere else? Was he, despite the danger, wanting to encounter something that was special and life-changing? See, I wonder if John chose to go and live in the wilderness so that he could experience and encounter God in a way that wouldn't have been possible anywhere else. Spending that time so deeply connected to God that the day God said, "Okay, John, it's time to come in from the wilderness and start preparing the way, like we've been talking about these past years." And because John was so tuned into God's voice by then, he just went and did it. I don't think I want to be quite as odd as John the Baptist, but I do want to be in tune with God so that the day God says to me, "This is yours to do, let's go," that I don't miss it. As ever, I'm going to finish with a prayer. And as ever, if you would like to make this your prayer, feel free to stick an amen at the end. Loving God, help us to be people who, even if we don't physically head out into the wilderness, spend time simply keeping company with you, so that when you ask us to go and do something, we hear you and are ready to respond. Amen. Thanks for joining me. See you again tomorrow, I hope. Bye for now.